Marcus lived in a small apartment with his grandmother in the noisy part of the city. He was 12 years old with bright eyes that lit up when he smiled and hands that were always moving. At school, Marcus was quiet. He did his work, kept his head down, and tried not to get noticed too much. Some of the other boys played sports and were loud in the hallways. Marcus wasn't like them. He had a different dream. One evening, Marcus came home from school to find his grandmother sitting at their small kitchen table. On the table was a long black case. "What's that, Grandma?" Marcus asked, putting down his backpack. His grandmother smiled. Her face had many wrinkles that deepened when she was happy. "I've been saving up for this for a long time," she said. "Open it." Marcus carefully opened the case. Inside was a violin. It wasn't new. There were scratches on the wood, and the strings looked old. But to Marcus, it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "It used to belong to a man who played in the city orchestra," his grandmother said. "I got it at the pawn shop. The owner said it still plays beautifully." Marcus touched the violin gently, afraid it might break. "But I don't know how to play it." "You'll learn," his grandmother said. "I've seen how you listen to music, how you tap your fingers to the beat. Music is in your blood, just like it was in your grandfather's." Marcus didn't remember his grandfather, but his grandmother often told stories about how he used to play the saxophone at small clubs before he passed away. "Thank you, Grandma," Marcus whispered, giving her a hug. That night, Marcus looked up violin videos online. He carefully took the instrument out of its case and tried to copy what he saw. The first sounds he made were terrible, screechy and sharp. His grandmother didn't complain, though. She just smiled and kept cooking dinner. Every day after school, Marcus would practice. He would place his fingers on the strings just right and move the bow carefully. Slowly, the awful screeching sounds started to change into music. It wasn't good music yet, but it was getting better. Marcus kept his violin a secret from everyone at school. In his neighborhood, boys didn't play violins. They played basketball or made rap music. Marcus was afraid they would laugh at him if they knew. One day, Ms. Parker, the music teacher, caught Marcus looking at sheet music in the school library. "Do you play an instrument, Marcus?" she asked, surprised. Marcus almost lied, but then he thought of how proud his grandmother was when he played at home. "Yes, ma'am. I'm learning the violin." Ms. Parker raised her eyebrows. "The violin? That's unusual. We don't have many violin players here." She looked at him with doubt in her eyes. "It's a very difficult instrument. It takes years of expensive lessons to play well." Marcus felt his face get hot. "I'm teaching myself. My grandma got me one." Ms. Parker smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. "Well, that's nice. But maybe you should try something more suitable. The school has some drums in the music room you could try." As Marcus walked away, he heard Ms. Parker talking to another teacher. "A violin? In this neighborhood?" They both laughed. That night, Marcus played his violin harder than ever before. Each note was like a promise to himself. He would show them. He would show everyone. His grandmother sat in her chair, listening with her eyes closed. "You keep playing, child," she said softly. "Don't you mind what anyone says. Music doesn't care what neighborhood you come from." 2 months passed, and Marcus practiced his violin every day. His fingers had small calluses now. At first, they hurt, but his grandmother said that meant he was becoming a real musician. The sounds coming from his violin were much better now. He could play simple songs from beginning to end without making too many mistakes. Marcus kept his violin hidden at school. He would rush home each day to practice. But one afternoon, the school principal made an announcement over the speakers. "Attention, students. The annual school talent show will be held in 6 weeks. If you want to participate, sign up in the main office by Friday." That night at dinner, Marcus pushed his food around his plate without eating much. "What's wrong, child?" his grandmother asked. "You've been quiet all evening." Marcus sighed. "There's a talent show at school. I was thinking maybe I could play my violin. His grandmother's face lit up. That's a wonderful idea. You've been working so hard. But what if everyone laughs at me? Marcus asked. What if I mess up? His grandmother reached across the table and took his hand. Life isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about having the courage to try. Your grandfather used to say that music speaks what words cannot. Your music has something to say, Marcus. The next day, Marcus stood in front of the sign-up sheet for a long time. Other students pushed past him to write their names. Finally, when the hallway was empty, he quickly wrote, Marcus Johnson, violin. When he walked away, he didn't see Mr. Thompson, the science teacher, reading the list. Mr. Thompson raised his eyebrows and chuckled to himself. At lunch, Marcus sat alone as usual. He could hear teachers talking at the next table. Did you see the talent show list? Mr. Thompson was saying to Ms. Parker, Marcus Johnson is going to play the violin. He said it like it was a joke. Ms. Parker laughed. Oh, that's right. He mentioned something about a violin before. I think his grandmother got him one from a pawn shop or something. A violin. Mr. Reynolds, the math teacher, joined in. In this neighborhood, he should stick to basketball like the other boys. Classical music isn't really their thing, if you know what I mean. Ms. Parker added, her voice low. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. His food no longer looked good. He wanted to erase his name from the list, to hide his violin forever, to disappear. After school, Marcus didn't practice. He put his violin in the closet and tried to do his homework, but he couldn't focus. When his grandmother came home from work, she noticed right away. No music today, she asked. Marcus shook his head. I don't want to do the talent show anymore. His grandmother sat next to him on his bed. Why not? Marcus told her what the teachers had said. His grandmother's face grew serious as she listened. Marcus, listen to me, she said when he finished. There will always be people who think they know what you can and cannot do. They put people in boxes because it's easier for them that way. But they're teachers, Marcus said. They know more than me. They know about science and math and music, yes, but they don't know what's in your heart. They don't know how hard you've worked. And they don't know what you're capable of. She got up and took the violin from the closet. She placed it gently in Marcus's hands. This violin doesn't care what neighborhood you're from. It only cares how you make it sing. And I've heard you, Marcus. You make it sing beautifully. Marcus looked down at the violin, feeling its weight in his hands. Play for me, his grandmother said softly. Play the song you've been working on. Marcus positioned the violin under his chin. He took a deep breath and began to play. The notes weren't perfect, but they came from deep inside him. As he played, his grandmother smiled, and Marcus felt something growing stronger inside him. Something the teachers couldn't take away. With the talent show just 4 weeks away, Marcus made a decision. He would not quit. He would practice harder than ever before. Each day after school, he played for at least 2 hours. His fingers would hurt and his arms would get tired, but he kept going. One evening, his grandmother came home with a surprise. I found something for you, she said, pulling a book from her bag. It was called Violin Basics. Where did you get this? Marcus asked, flipping through the pages filled with notes and finger positions. The library, she said. I asked the librarian for help. She said this is good for beginners. Marcus hugged his grandmother tight. Thank you, Grandma. The book helped Marcus learn faster. He discovered he had been holding the bow wrong. The book showed him the right way. It also had simple songs that helped him practice new skills. 2 weeks before the talent show, Marcus decided to bring his violin to school. He needed to practice during lunch break if he wanted to get better. He found an empty classroom and carefully took out his violin. Just as he started to play, the door opened. It was James, one of the popular boys who played basketball. What are you doing? James asked, staring at the violin. Marcus almost put the violin away, but then he remembered his grandmother's words. I'm practicing for the talent show. James walked closer. Is that a violin? My cousin in the city plays violin. Really? Marcus was surprised. Yeah, he's pretty good. James sat down. Let me hear you play. Marcus's heart beat fast, but he put the violin under his chin and began to play the simple melody he had been practicing. It wasn't perfect, but it was much better than when he had started. When he finished, James nodded. That's cool. Different, you know. Everyone else is just going to be dancing or rapping. You don't think it's weird? Marcus asked. James shrugged. It's different, but different can be good. He got up to leave. Good luck at the show, man. That small moment gave Marcus more confidence. Maybe not everyone would laugh at him. The next day, Marcus was practicing in the same classroom when Miss Parker walked by. She stopped when she heard the music and looked in through the window in the door. Marcus didn't see her. He was too focused on his playing. Miss Parker watched for a while. Her face changed from surprise to something else. Maybe respect. She walked away without saying anything to Marcus. At home, Marcus told his grandmother about James. Maybe not everyone will laugh at me, he said. People will surprise you, his grandmother said. Some will be mean for no reason. Others will be kind when you least expect it. As the talent show got closer, Marcus decided to play a more difficult piece. He found it in his book, a simple version of Vivaldi's Spring. It was harder than anything he had tried before, but he loved the way it sounded. He practiced every chance he got. Sometimes his fingers would slip, or the bow would make a screeching sound. But each day, it got a little better. One night, his grandmother sat listening to him play the whole piece from beginning to end. When he finished, she had tears in her eyes. What's wrong, Grandma? Did it sound bad? She shook her head. No, child. It sounded beautiful. You've worked so hard. And it shows. She took his hand. No matter what happens at that talent show, I want you to remember something. You've already won because you didn't give up. The night before the talent show, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the people who would be watching. The students, the teachers who had laughed at him, the parents. What if he messed up? What if his hand shook too much? What if everyone laughed? He got out of bed and picked up his violin. In the quiet darkness of his room, he played softly, letting the music calm his fears. Tomorrow would come no matter what, and he would be ready. The day of the talent show arrived. Marcus woke up with a knot in his stomach. He could hardly eat breakfast. His grandmother noticed and put an extra pancake on his plate. You need your strength today, she said. Artists need fuel just like athletes do. Marcus tried to eat, but the food felt like clay in his mouth. What if I mess up, Grandma? What if I forget the notes? Then you'll keep playing, she said simply. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about how it makes people feel. At school, the hallways buzzed with excitement about the talent show. Students who were performing practiced in corners or whispered with friends. Marcus carried his violin case close to his body, afraid someone might bump into it. During lunch, Miss Parker found Marcus sitting alone. She seemed nervous as she approached him. Marcus, she said, I heard you practicing yesterday. You've been working hard. Marcus nodded, surprised that she was talking to him nicely. The acoustics in the gymnasium aren't great, she continued. Would you like to practice there before the show? To get used to the sound? Marcus was shocked by her offer. Yes, Mom. That would be good. After lunch, Ms. Parker took Marcus to the empty gym. The large room made his violin sound different. The notes bounced off the walls and came back to him. Ms. Parker showed him where to stand on the stage so his music would sound best. You've chosen a difficult piece, she said as he practiced. I'm impressed by your ambition. Marcus thought about telling her that he'd heard what she said about him in the lunchroom that day, about how boys like him shouldn't play violin. But he didn't. Instead, he just played his music and watched her face change as she listened. When the final bell rang, students hurried to the gymnasium for the talent show. The principal had turned the gym into a performance space with chairs for the audience and lights on the stage. Marcus peeked through the curtain and saw his grandmother sitting in the third row. She had left work early to be there. Backstage, the other performers were nervous too. Some practiced their dance moves. Others fixed their clothes or hair. Marcus found a quiet corner to tune his violin. Mr. Thompson walked by and did a double take when he saw Marcus with his violin. "So you're really going through with this?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Marcus said, trying to sound brave. Mr. Thompson looked like he wanted to say something else, but just walked away shaking his head. The talent show began. First came a group of girls doing a dance routine. Then 2 boys performed a rap song they had written. A girl sang a popular song. With each performance, Marcus's heart beat faster. He was scheduled to perform 9th out of 12 acts. When the 8th performer finished, Ms. Parker found Marcus backstage. "You're up next," she said. "Remember what we practiced about where to stand?" Marcus nodded, his mouth too dry to speak. "And Marcus," she added, her voice softer now, "I was wrong about you. I'm sorry for what I said before." Before Marcus could respond, the principal's voice boomed through the speakers. "Next up, we have Marcus Johnson playing the violin." The audience clapped politely. Marcus could hear some whispers and a few snickers as he walked onto the stage carrying his violin. The bright lights made it hard to see faces, but he could make out his grandmother in the audience. She gave him a small nod. Marcus positioned the violin under his chin. His hands were shaking. The gymnasium seemed huge now, filled with people waiting for him to play. He could see Mr. Thompson and Mr. Reynolds sitting together, arms crossed, looking bored already. Marcus closed his eyes. He took a deep breath, and then he began to play. The first notes from Marcus's violin filled the gymnasium. They were clear and strong. Marcus kept his eyes closed, focusing only on the music. His fingers moved across the strings just as he had practiced hundreds of times at home. In the audience, people who had been talking fell silent. Mr. Thompson and Mr. Reynolds exchanged surprised looks. This was not what they had expected. The simple melody of Vivaldi's Spring danced through the air, bouncing off the walls of the gym. As Marcus played, he forgot about his fear. He forgot about the teachers who had laughed at him. He forgot about the students watching. There was only the music, flowing from his heart through his fingers and into the violin. His grandmother sat with her hands folded in her lap, tears running down her cheeks. Next to her, a woman whispered, "Did you know he was this good?" His grandmother just nodded, too moved to speak. On stage, Marcus began the faster part of the music. His bow moved quickly across the strings. His fingers pressed and released in the exact right places. The music grew louder, more exciting. A few students in the audience began to tap their feet to the rhythm. James, the basketball player who had heard Marcus practice, was nodding his head to the beat. He elbowed his friend and whispered, "I told you he was good." Miss Parker stood at the side of the stage, her hand over her mouth. She could not believe that this was the same boy she had dismissed so easily. The music he played was not perfect. A professional would hear the small mistakes. But it had heart. It had soul. Mr. Reynolds leaned over to Mr. Thompson. "Did you know he could play like this?" he whispered. Mr. Thompson shook his head. "I had no idea. No idea at all." In the back row, the principal was recording the performance on his phone. He had never seen the students so quiet during a talent show. Marcus reached the most difficult part of the piece. His fingers moved faster than they ever had before. For a moment, he almost lost his place in the music, but he remembered what his grandmother had said. "If you make a mistake, keep playing." He found his place again and continued. As the music built toward the final part, Marcus opened his eyes. The bright lights made it hard to see faces clearly, but he could feel the silence in the room. It was not the silence of boredom. It was the silence of people listening, really listening. With the final notes, Marcus put all his heart into the music. The last note hung in the air for a long moment. Then there was silence. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Nobody made a sound. Then the gymnasium erupted. Students jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering. Some whistled loudly. Parents stood up, applauding with big smiles on their faces. Even the teachers were on their feet. Marcus stood on stage, his violin at his side, stunned by the reaction. He had never heard such loud applause before. He looked at his grandmother, who was standing with her hands clasped together in front of her. She was crying, but they were happy tears. Miss Parker was the first teacher to reach Marcus as he came off the stage. "That was extraordinary," she said, her voice shaking a little. "I've never heard anyone your age play with such feeling." Students Marcus had never spoken to before came up to high-five him. James gave him a fist bump and said, "Man, you killed it. That was fire." Marcus's hands were shaking from both nerves and excitement. He carefully put his violin back in its case. The other performers for the talent show would have to work hard to top his act. In the corner of the gym, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Reynolds stood watching as students surrounded Marcus. Their faces showed a mix of shock and shame. "I guess we were wrong about him," Mr. Reynolds said quietly. "Very wrong," Mr. Thompson agreed. Marcus's grandmother made her way through the crowd and wrapped her arms around him. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered in his ear. Marcus hugged her back, feeling taller somehow. "Thank you for believing in me, Grandma," he said, "even when I didn't believe in myself." The next morning, Marcus walked into school feeling different. Students who had never noticed him before now smiled or waved. In the hallway, a group of 6th grade girls whispered and pointed at him. One of them called out, "Hey, violin boy, you were amazing yesterday." Marcus smiled shyly and kept walking. He wasn't used to all this attention. During first period, the principal's voice came over the speakers. "Good morning, students. I want to congratulate all our performers from yesterday's talent show. You all did a wonderful job. A special mention goes to Marcus Johnson, whose violin performance has been viewed over 500 times on the school's social media page since last night." Students in Marcus's class turned to look at him. Some clapped. Marcus sank lower in his seat, his face hot with embarrassment, but he was smiling. At lunch, instead of sitting alone, Marcus found himself surrounded by classmates asking questions. "How long have you been playing? Where did you learn? Can you teach me?" Marcus answered honestly, "Just a few months. I taught myself using videos and a book. My grandma got me the violin from a second-hand shop." Their eyes grew wide. "You taught yourself? In just a few months?" Before Marcus could answer, Mr. Reynolds appeared at their table. The math teacher looked uncomfortable. "Marcus, could I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. Marcus followed Mr. Reynolds to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. He was nervous. Had he done something wrong? "I owe you an apology," Mr. Reynolds said, surprising Marcus. "I made assumptions about you based on things that don't matter. I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had never had a teacher apologize to him before. "Thank you, sir," he managed to say. "You have a real gift," Mr. Reynolds continued. "My brother teaches music at the community college. They have a youth program on weekends. Students with talent can take lessons for free. Would you be interested?" Marcus's heart beat faster. "Real lessons? With a teacher?" Mr. Reynolds nodded. "I called him this morning. He watched the video of your performance. He's very interested in meeting you." "Yes," Marcus said quickly. "I would love that. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds." When Marcus told his grandmother the news that evening, she hugged him tight. "See what happens when you don't give up. Doors start to open." That Saturday, Marcus and his grandmother went to the community college. Mr. Reynolds' brother, Dr. Reynolds, was tall with kind eyes and a serious face. He listened as Marcus played, occasionally nodding or making notes. When Marcus finished, Dr. Reynolds turned to his grandmother. "Your grandson has natural talent. It's rare to see, especially in someone who is self-taught. With proper training, he could go very far." How far? She asked. Music scholarships. Conservatory, perhaps. But that's thinking ahead. For now, I'd like to work with him every Saturday. No charge. On the bus ride home, Marcus couldn't stop smiling. Grandma, do you think I could really go to a music school someday? His grandmother patted his hand. I think you can do anything you set your mind to. You've already proved that. The next week at school was different from any week before. In music class, Ms. Parker asked Marcus to demonstrate proper violin holding technique for the class. After class, she showed him a book of violin music she had bought for the school library. I thought we should have this, she said, for other students who might want to learn. Even Mr. Thompson changed. When he saw Marcus in the hallway, he stopped to ask how the lessons with Dr. Reynolds were going. But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. He walked taller now. He spoke up more in class. The violin had given him something that no one could take away: belief in himself. Every afternoon, he still rushed home to practice. But now, he left his bedroom door open so the music could fill the whole apartment. Sometimes, neighbors would stop by just to listen. 3 months had passed since the talent show. Marcus now took lessons with Dr. Reynolds every Saturday. His progress was amazing. Dr. Reynolds said he was learning faster than any student he had ever taught. It's because I practice all the time, Marcus explained when Dr. Reynolds praised him. It's more than that, Dr. Reynolds said. You have something special, a natural feel for the music. You don't just play the notes, you feel them. At home, Marcus's grandmother had put up a shelf especially for his growing collection of music books. The old violin case now sat proudly on display in the living room instead of being hidden in his closet. One evening, Marcus was practicing a new, more difficult piece when there was a knock at the door. His grandmother opened it to find the principal standing there. Good evening, Mrs. Johnson, the principal said. I'm sorry to drop by unannounced, but I have something important to discuss with you and Marcus. Marcus put down his violin and came to the door. Marcus, your talent show video has gone beyond our school, the principal explained. A local news station found it on our school page. They want to do a story about you. Marcus's eyes grew wide. About me? On TV? The principal nodded. They're doing a special report on young people breaking stereotypes. They were very impressed by your playing, especially when they learned you taught yourself. Marcus looked at his grandmother, uncertain. She squeezed his shoulder. It's up to you, child. Marcus thought about all the other kids like him who might be hiding their talents because they were afraid of being laughed at. Maybe his story could help them. I'll do it, he said. The next week, a news crew came to the school. They filmed Marcus playing in the music room. They interviewed Ms. Parker, who now spoke about Marcus with great pride, as if she had always believed in him. He's an inspiration to all our students, she told the camera. He shows that with hard work and passion, you can overcome any obstacle. They also interviewed Mr. Reynolds, who admitted on camera that he had been wrong about Marcus. I made judgments based on where he came from, not who he was, Mr. Reynolds said honestly. Marcus taught me an important lesson about not putting limits on any child's potential. The reporter asked Marcus, were you hurt when teachers didn't believe in you? Marcus thought carefully before answering. Yes, it hurt. But my grandmother always told me that what matters most is believing in yourself, even when others don't. The news story aired the following week. Marcus and his grandmother watched it together on their small TV. Seeing himself on screen was strange, but Marcus felt proud of how he had spoken. The day after the news story, Marcus received a letter. It was from the State Youth Orchestra, inviting him to audition. The youth orchestra, Dr. Reynolds exclaimed when Marcus showed him the letter that Saturday. This is a big opportunity. These young musicians are the best in the state. Do you think I'm good enough? Marcus asked nervously. You'll need to work harder than ever before, Dr. Reynolds said honestly. The piece they want you to play is very difficult. But if anyone can do it, you can. For the next month, Marcus practiced every free minute he had. Sometimes his fingers hurt so much he had to soak them in warm water. But he didn't give up. His grandmother worried sometimes. "Don't push yourself too hard," she would say when she found him practicing late at night. "I'm not pushing," Marcus would reply. "The music is pulling me." At school, even students who weren't his close friends wished him luck. Miss Parker allowed him to use the music room during lunch to practice. Mr. Thompson, who had once laughed at the idea of Marcus playing violin, now stopped by the music room to listen sometimes. "You've come a long way," he told Marcus one day. "Whatever happens at that audition, you should be proud." Marcus nodded, but inside he knew. This audition meant everything. It was his chance to show the world that music had no boundaries. Not neighborhood boundaries, not race boundaries, not any boundaries at all. The day of the youth orchestra audition arrived. It was a Saturday morning, and Marcus woke up before the sun. He had barely slept. His stomach felt tight with nervousness. His grandmother made him a special breakfast, pancakes shaped like music notes. They made him smile despite his nerves. "Remember, Marcus," she said as they ate, "this audition is important, but it's not everything. You've already accomplished so much." Marcus nodded, but he couldn't help feeling that this day would change his life one way or another. The audition was at the city concert hall, a huge building with tall columns out front. Marcus had never been there before. As they walked up the steps, he clutched his violin case tightly. Inside, the hallways were filled with other young musicians. Some were playing scales to warm up. Others were sitting quietly, looking at their music. Most of them had fancy violins and expensive clothes. Many had their parents with them, mothers and fathers who looked like they belonged in this grand building. Marcus looked down at his second-hand violin and worn clothes. For the first time in months, he felt doubt creeping back in. Did he really belong here? His grandmother seemed to read his mind. She squeezed his hand and whispered, "Music doesn't care about fancy clothes or expensive instruments. Music only cares about what's in your heart." A woman with a clipboard called Marcus's name. It was his turn to audition. His grandmother gave him a quick hug. "Play from your heart," she said. Marcus followed the woman down a long hallway to a room with a small stage. 3 adults sat at a table facing the stage. They looked serious and important. "Please state your name and the piece you will be playing," one of them said. Marcus's mouth felt dry. "Marcus Johnson. I will be playing Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 3, first movement." He positioned his violin under his chin. His hands were shaking. He closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. Then he began to play. The music started slowly, but soon built into faster sections. Marcus focused completely on each note, each movement of his bow. He tried to remember everything Dr. Reynolds had taught him about technique, but also what his grandmother had always said about playing from the heart. As he played, Marcus forgot about the judges watching him. He forgot about being nervous. He was lost in the music, letting it flow through him and out into the room. When he finished, there was silence. The 3 judges looked at each other. Then one of them, an older man with white hair, spoke. "Young man, where do you study?" "I take lessons with Dr. Reynolds at the community college," Marcus answered. "But I started by teaching myself." The judges looked surprised. The white-haired man made a note on his paper. "Thank you, Marcus," the woman judge said. "We'll be in touch within 2 weeks." As Marcus left the stage, his legs felt wobbly. Had he done well? He couldn't tell. His grandmother was waiting for him. "How did it go?" she asked. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. They didn't say much. For the next 2 weeks, Marcus tried not to think about the audition. He went to school. He practiced his violin. He took his regular Saturday lesson with Dr. Reynolds. No matter what happens with the youth orchestra, Dr. Reynolds told him, "You should be proud of how far you've come in such a short time." Then, one evening, the phone rang. Marcus's grandmother answered it. Marcus watched her face as she listened to the caller. Slowly, her expression changed from polite interest to surprise, then to joy. When she hung up, She turned to Marcus with tears in her eyes. "That was the director of the youth orchestra," she said. "Marcus, you've been accepted." Marcus couldn't speak. He just stood there, unable to believe what he was hearing. "There's more," his grandmother continued. "They said your audition was one of the best they've ever heard from someone your age. They're offering you a special scholarship for private lessons with one of the orchestra's main violinists." Marcus felt tears running down his face. All the hard work, all the doubts, all the times people had laughed at him, it had all led to this moment. His grandmother hugged him tight. "I always knew you were special," she whispered. "Now the world is starting to see it too." 1 year had passed since Marcus first picked up a violin. Now he stood backstage at the city concert hall, waiting to perform with the youth orchestra. It was their spring concert, and the hall was full of people. Marcus peeked through the curtain. He could see his grandmother sitting in the front row. Next to her was Dr. Reynolds, who had helped him so much. Several of his teachers from school were there too. Ms. Parker, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Reynolds. Even the principal had come. "Nervous?" asked Sophia, another violin player in the orchestra. She was 14 and had been playing since she was 4 years old. "A little," Marcus admitted. "Don't be," she said with a smile. "You're the best new player we've had in years. Everyone says so." Marcus still found it hard to believe how much his life had changed. 3 times a week, he now took lessons with Mr. Garcia, one of the top violinists in the city orchestra. The youth orchestra had given him a better violin to use. Not brand new, but much nicer than his old one. They had even helped his grandmother find a music camp for him to attend in the summer. At school, things were different too. Marcus was no longer the quiet boy nobody noticed. He had friends now. He had started a small music group that met after school. 3 other students were learning violin, inspired by what Marcus had done. Ms. Parker had become his biggest supporter at school. She had helped him set up the music group and found old instruments for the other kids to use. "You've changed this school," she told him once. "You've shown everyone what's possible." The orchestra conductor, Mr. Williams, gathered all the young musicians together backstage. "Remember what we practiced," he said. "Play with your hearts as well as your hands. Your families are out there. Make them proud." As the young musicians took their places on stage, Marcus searched for his grandmother's face in the audience. She was smiling so big he could see it even from the stage. She gave him a small wave. The concert began. The orchestra played 3 pieces before it was time for the special performance. Marcus was one of 2 students who had been chosen to play a duet. The conductor announced their names, and Marcus stepped forward with Sophia. They had practiced this duet for weeks. It was a beautiful piece that started slowly, with the 2 violins answering each other like birds calling across a valley. Then it built into faster sections where they played together in perfect harmony. As Marcus played, he thought about his journey. He remembered the day his grandmother gave him his first violin. He remembered practicing alone in his room, afraid to let anyone hear. He remembered the teachers laughing at him, and how much that had hurt. But he also remembered the feeling of playing at the talent show, and the sound of applause washing over him like a wave. Now here he was, playing on a real stage with a real orchestra. The music flowed out of him naturally, as if the violin was part of his own body. When the duet ended, the audience burst into applause. Marcus and Sophia bowed together. Marcus looked up to see the audience standing. His grandmother was wiping tears from her eyes. Dr. Reynolds was clapping loudly. His teachers from school were all on their feet. After the concert, many people came to congratulate him. Mr. Thompson, who had once laughed at the idea of Marcus playing violin, shook his hand firmly. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "I'll never make that mistake with another student again." Later, as Marcus and his grandmother walked home, she put her arm around his shoulders. "I'm so proud of you," she said, "not just because you play beautifully, but because you didn't give up when things were hard." Marcus hugged his violin case to his chest. "I couldn't have done it without you believing in me." "That's not true," his grandmother said gently. I just helped you believe in yourself." As they walked, Marcus thought about all the other kids like him, kids with dreams that seemed impossible, kids who were told they couldn't do something because of where they came from or what they looked like. "Grandma," he said suddenly, "I want to teach other kids to play. Kids who think they can't." His grandmother smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea." Marcus looked up at the stars. His journey wasn't ending. It was just beginning, and he would make sure it began for others too.